every major movie of the 90s in chronological order, rewatched and dissected. Sick references, trivia bombs. Listen as they try to not get canceled. It's the 90s Repeated.
Hello and welcome to the 90s Repeated, the movie podcast where we revisit the best films of the 90s from the very beginning, with me, Dave, and Jim.
Hello.
Sadly, Fish can't be with us this week.
Aww.
But this week, other than Fish not being with us, it's July 1990, and we're repeating the Steven Spielberg-produced spider horror comedy Arachnophobia, starring Jeff Daniels, you know, that guy from Dumb and Dumber who isn't Jim Carrey. Cue the trailer.
The Jennings family has just moved to the small town of Canaima.
Oh, Ross, smell that air.
Rock and roll! Hollywood Pictures and Amblin Entertainment present Arachnophobia. 8 legs, 2 fangs, and an attitude.
Perk up, Lloyd. If we find the spider that did this, you can arrest him.
Arachnophobia, a Thrillomedy.
Wowzers.
Well, that was odd, wasn't it? Because it used the word Thrillomedy, which I've never heard before.
I don't think that's ever been used since.
And it hasn't been used since. No, it didn't take off, did it? The Thrillomedy.
That's a really odd trailer, isn't it?
But it shows the whole movie.
It does not represent the movie very well. Well, not only that, but the music. It makes it sound like a
Thrillomedy
comedy film. Like a Thrillomedy, yeah.
Yeah, I think in reality the movie's a little bit scarier than that. It is funny, but it's not funny.
No, it's not a comedy in any sense, I don't think. Like, there are funny parts to it.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it came together in the edit, which we can talk about, that I was going to save this, but this movie has a phenomenal editor. We'll get onto it later because we need to stick to the format in some capacity, Jim. We can come on that later. Okay, so normally the way this goes is what was your memory of the film going in, Jim? How familiar were you with Arachnophobia before you watched it?
I was very familiar with Arachnophobia. This is one of those movies that I must have watched, 15, 20 times when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I had very distinct memories of most of the movie. Mm-hmm. And I loved it when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. At the time, I was, as a small young child, very interested in nature. Mm-hmm. It was kind of the same with like when Jurassic Park came out. Everyone had like a dinosaur obsession, but at the time, I was also very much into like insects and animals and stuff. So this film was just really fascinating to me. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I must have watched it over and over and over again.
Yeah, so I was the same. So this is one I had on VHS, and I watched a lot over and over and over again. And I think I was probably around, 10, 11 years old. And this movie, I think, was when I started going, oh, Spielberg means seal of quality. Like, if Spielberg's name's on it, it's good. Because there was no reason.
Such a young age.
Yeah, no, it cemented it. Because it had this, it had Jurassic Park as well on VHS. And then, E.T. had already come out, and I knew about Gremlins, and there's this movie. You had the Goonies as well. So like this movie at Amblin is just one. I looked at it. So we'll look at it now. If you look at Amblin Entertainment, I was thinking, when this movie came out, they had Amblin Entertainment, for anyone that doesn't know, is Steven Spielberg's kind of production company. That he set up, and it was very much the Steven Spielberg company, but then he'd get these other film directors in, and all those film directors kind of have the Spielberg kind of magic and formula. So, from 1982, when Spielberg set up the studio, you had Poltergeist, you had Gremlins, you had the Goonies, you had Back to the Future, you had An American Tail, I don't know if you saw that one, the animated film Inner Space, Batteries Not Included. So all these movies I watched a lot when I was a kid. I don't know about you. Yeah. And so that it was like, okay, Spielberg's like just a god to me already. Mm. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, wow, okay, cool, awesome. So yeah, going back in, Jim, what did you think of it this time then on the rewatch?
I loved it just as much as I did when I was a kid.
Yeah, I loved it as well. And what really blew me away was just the quality of the filmmaking. Like, I was amazed at how well made this movie is. I was like, oh man, I really knew my stuff when I was a kid. It kind of validated everything. I was like, this.
That's what you took from the watch of this. I know what I'm talking about.
Well, no, I don't
Not that
think
it's a good movie. Dave knows what he's talking about. Okay.
I just don't think it's a coincidence. I don't think it's a coincidence in that, like, I loved this movie when I was a kid, and then watching it, I was worried that, like, I was like, why did I love that movie so much? And then I was like, actually, it was just really well made. It's just really, really well made. And the funny thing about it is, I don't know if you felt this, like, nothing really happens for the first hour. Like, there's no big...
No, there's not. So this is, you were just talking about Spielberg. I think that's because, obviously, it's very Spielberg inspired. And what you get through that is just, like, characters. So... this film could have been like, just go down the sort of like horror route, jump scares all the time, just cheap kind of tricks.
Or Sci-Fi Channel original.
Yeah, but they invest so much time in building the characters first that you actually care about them, and they are fun characters. And I think that's definitely like a Spielberg thing, isn't it? It's like it's the characters sort of trump what's going on.
Yeah, agreed. And what this really reminded me of, I don't think we've ever spoken about it, Jim, is if you've ever read a Stephen King book, and this really felt like a Stephen King book or film. It's
that like small town thing that I've kind of talked about in the past as like a fan of zombie movies, because I like these kind of small towns get taken over by zombies, whatever. Yeah, it's a Stephen King thing. You can also, obviously, Spielberg's influence, but also like it's obviously quite Hitchcockian as well, right? So it's inspired by Hitchcock quite a bit.
I like The Birds. Yeah. There's a hint of that.
Yeah, and even down to the shower scene,
of course,
the teenage girl.
So sticking with the quality of the filmmaking then, and this movie being really good, and we started talking about the editor. So let's talk about the editor. So this is edited by Michael Kahn. Now, last week I said that like Walter Murch was the greatest editor of all time, who did Apocalypse Now, and I think just in terms of like the quality of what he did, I agree he is. But in terms of like a career and the most number of amazing movies, I think Michael Kahn's probably number 2, because he is Spielberg's editor. So he did win an Oscar for Saving Private Ryan. He did win an Oscar for Schindler's List. He won another one for don't know what it is. He's won 3, I know that, but he was nominated for Fatal Attraction but didn't win. But like, just a phenomenal editor, and you see that in this movie. Like I noticed, I don't know if you noticed that the wife isn't the strongest actress, and I noticed that he was cutting around her performance quite a lot actually, and I was like, okay, I could see that you're doing so. Like that you did this, I saw that he did that, and just a lot of tension in the scenes. So him coupled with the cinematographer. Did you look up the cinematographer, Jim?
No, I didn't.
So the cinematographer is a guy called Michael Salomon, and this movie's phenomenally well shot. Like, the camera's always moving. There's some excellent sequences, like when the spider comes out the ceiling with the kids in the bedroom. There's the whole fake out with the spider on the wall and the clothes hanger. Yeah. So he went on to be and he's a really famous cinematographer, like amazing cinematographer. He did Backdraft, which was famous for like all this fire photography. And he also did The Abyss with James Cameron, who, like, underwater, never been done before, shot the whole film underwater. And he went on to be a fairly successful television director, and he directed a lot of Band of Brothers episodes. So just a really
cool.
Yeah, so just such quality people working on this kind of 90s straight to, these days this would be a straight to Netflix kind of, horror movie, yes, or a sci-fi original.
And worth pointing out that, so also, we talked about Spielberg, Amblin Entertainment. This was the directorial debut of Frank Marshall. Mm-hmm. So Frank Marshall had been producing with Steven Spielberg for a while. This was his kind of first directing job. Which is pretty good.
Yeah, it's a really well directed movie. Again, I don't know, given how successful the cinematographer was, like how much of it maybe the cinematographer was leading the charge on. But in retrospect now, because Frank Marshall hasn't really done many other movies. I think he did this and Congo, right?
Congo,
And I don't think he's done many others. But and also, you're right, it's his first film, so they were like, we want to stack this with the best people possible, probably to give me my best shot. And he's friends with Spielberg. But again, like we've been doing, this is the first year of us doing the 90s repeated, and like we've already had how many other Amblin movies with Spielberg and Marshall? Like,
I know,
insane. They just own this whole year, Joe versus the Volcano and Gremlins 2. I'm like, and it really feels like Spielberg is involved in these films. As like I said, like it doesn't.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. It's not like these days. If you're an executive producer or a producer, you might not be that hands on with the production of the movie. I think we kind of think of like maybe Kevin Feige at Marvel, or like but that's the producer. Spielberg's just an executive producer on these things. He's not, isn't he? Is he really? Yeah. So exec tends to mean that you're more kind of not as involved, but he definitely feels involved.
I think there's a nice little anecdote from the set where Steven Spielberg is actually on set, and it's like a long shot of John Goodman in his truck, and apparently in that shot Steven Spielberg is like crouched down in the passenger seat, and at the time of shooting Steven Spielberg says to John, like, nobody is ever going to know that I was here. And it's just a nice little funny anecdote.
You wonder how many Amblin movies Spielberg snuck into in the background now.
just hiding on the set somewhere.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk through the movie a little bit. So the movie opens. The first thing that struck me was there's no music, just ambient sound. Yeah. Did you notice that?
Yep.
So it's like it's kind of a bit mysterious.
Okay.
On the river, you hear crickets, you hear insects, and that kind of comes back later actually, because they kind of say,
yes,
oh, I haven't heard any crickets, or I haven't heard anything nearby, and then you get some lovely helicopter shots that looks very expensive. They must have really gone out and filmed all this. They're in like the Amazon.
Well, apparently
right?
they did.
Yeah.
It's Venezuela, I think.
Venezuela.
Is it?
That's right. It is Venezuela.
And they apparently, so just backing up a bit, the first thing I was surprised about, my memory is watching this when I was a kid, was that this whole like jungle sequence was like 2 minutes long. And it was just like super quick, like, and then you're straight into little Californian town somewhere.
Yeah.
But this whole opening sequence is like 15 minutes long. Which,
it goes fast,
it's quite
though.
a long time. Yeah, I guess so. The pace of it's good, but I was just surprised how, like, a good chunk of time is dedicated to this before, our hero even turns up. But that 15 minutes, apparently, they were shooting for 4 weeks in Venezuela, against some quite harsh conditions, apparently, as well. So it was a 4-week shoot just for this opening 15 minutes, which I guess, is probably about right in movie shooting timelines. But yeah, I was just surprised.
And you know what I'm thinking now as well, and that it's just occurred to me, is that this is the trope, right, where you have the opening and you kill the guy at the beginning in the first, but it doesn't feel that way because it goes for so long and you actually get to know them a little bit. It's not like the typical horror movie where the guy's just offed immediately and also you know he's going to die. Like they establish it and they give him enough character and they talk that you're like, oh, maybe this is going to carry on a little bit. So it doesn't feel like the opening of Jaws or like Scream where you know the person's going to die.
I don't want to shoot ahead to categories, but it almost feels like they do kill the lead here. Because as the movie opens, you feel like this guy is the lead character of the movie,
Yeah, except obviously he's not a looker, unfortunately. There was if they'd actually cast an actor, they'd actually cast someone who could have been a leading man. They could have really fooled me.
And just going back to, because we were talking about how this film seems like a blend of Hitchcock, Spielberg, Stephen King. I think this opening also is very like Michael Crichton. It's like a Michael Crichton opening, like in the jungle, kind of discovering something. It almost felt like the start.
Yeah. Well, they do it in Jurassic Park, don't they? Again, and Jurassic Park is classy enough that it doesn't feel like the slasher movie opening, even though it is with the guy with the Velociraptor as well. So this guy, is it Manning he's called?
Jerry Manley.
Jerry Manley, okay. So at the beginning, there's this guy, Jerry Manley, and he has a real thankless job, doesn't he? When I feel like they did this actor dirty a little bit, because when he gets bitten by the spider, and they're just like, okay, now die on camera, and like, And if you were just channel hopping and you just flicked onto this and you didn't know what was going on, you'd thinking this guy was getting fellation under those covers or something. Do you know what I mean? Like he's really. He's really.
No, I would not.
He is really going for it. He is really going for this performance. I'm like,
he just bit his tongue off, and then, I mean, I don't know what's happening with you, Dave.
Well, play the clip. You know, just if you just channel hopped onto that, I just feel like this poor guy. I just feel like it's because the thing is that later on in the movie, another guy gets bitten by a spider, the doctor, and he's a much better actor, isn't he? Much better death. Yeah, they're completely different. They're not the same at all. They're completely different.
Like he's
deaths.
having more of a heart attack, kind of. Yeah. It's very different. Very different.
This guy, I just feel like was that the best take we got? That's all I'm saying. I'm like, I would have maybe given him another go around that, you know, given him another chance.
Yeah.
So then we get to the, you know, he gets bitten by the spider, he gets killed. The spider gets transported in the coffins. This is how this really dangerous poisonous spider that no one's ever found before gets transported to the small town with Jeff Daniels. Now, shall we talk about Jeff Daniels a little bit, just generally and in this movie, Jim? So what is your relationship with Jeff Daniels? Have you seen any other Jeff Daniels movies other than Dumb and Dumber?
I don't think I have. Well, I probably have. I'd have to look through the list.
Okay.
But
Nothing comes to mind.
I don't think I have off the top of my head. The only thing that I've seen him in, and I've never really watched it, but I've seen clips of The Newsroom.
Yeah, excellent in The Newsroom.
And he seems really good in that. It's kind of one of those shows that I kind of keep meaning to watch, but I never have.
He went through a phase of doing some Woody Allen movies that I really obviously I love Woody Allen films, and he's in this movie called The Purple Rose of Cairo, which is excellent, which is where he plays like a 50s kind of explorer adventurer character, and basically a woman in the cinema falls in love with him and he steps out of the cinema and comes to real life. And he finds the actor that played him, and they kind of talk to each other. It's a good movie, worth a watch if you want to see Jeff Daniels. I think he was Oscar nominated for it. I'd say it's probably Jeff Daniels' best film outside of Arachnophobia and Dumb and Dumber, and also The Newsroom. Really,
this is like completely pointless conversation, but I'm going to tell you anyway. So, like when I was a kid, I always used to get I'm talking like a little kid, like so 8, 9, 10, right? I always used to get confused between Mel Gibson and Bruce Willis, right? And I don't know why. I think it's just because they were both like action stars. I think I'd seen like Lethal Weapon and I'd seen Die Hard, and I like could never tell the difference between the two actors, right? And watching Arachnophobia reminded me that I have a similar thing with Jeff Daniels and Bill Pullman, right? And like even to this day, like I got over the whole Mel Gibson Bruce Willis thing, right? I kind of got over that. I can tell the difference. But with Bill Pullman and Jeff Daniels, I still get a little bit confused sometimes. Like if somebody says, "Oh, who played the president in Independence Day?" I'll be like, "Was it Jeff Daniels or Bill Pullman?" I'm not sure.
We're going to live on. We're going to survive. Today, we celebrate our Independence Day.
It's not the greatest country in the world, Professor. That's my answer. And with a straight face, you're going to tell students that America is so star-spangled awesome that we're the only ones in the world who have freedom? Canada has freedom. Japan has freedom. The UK, France, Italy, Germany, Spain, Australia, Belgium.
Okay, so I had it with Bill Pullman, so there's a common link here, and Bill Paxton. When I was a kid, I was like, which one is which?
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
I know there's two Bills, and I was like, oh.
Which Bill?
Which Bill is it? I don't remember.
It's not important, but I thought I'd bring it up.
There you go, so Jeff Daniels in this movie, Jim, I feel like I should hate this character, but I don't.
Right.
Because he's a rich doctor. He's coming to this small town. He's obviously quite pretentious. He has a wine cellar. He loves wine.
No, he wants his fucking wine cellar, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Oh, God, do we know about his fucking wine cellar?
But I don't hate him.
Although I do like the wine cellar thing. It's good foreshadowing, isn't it?
Because of the final confrontation takes place down there. Is that?
Yeah, the final battle happens in the basement. So it's kind of, they set the basement up very early on as, you know, a place where things are going to happen, I think.
Easy with that. Easy. I don't want to agitate the sediments. Chateau Margaux, $127 a bottle.
Tasty, huh?
At that price, who can afford to drink it? Goes in the basement. I mean the cellar. The wine cellar.
Okay, yes, but okay. So, did you like Jeff Daniels in this movie or not? The character that he plays, or are you with me that you did like him? So, I'd like to think. I want to try and get to the bottom of why I liked him.
I do like him, but I mean, as a kid, I remember liking him and not thinking any more about that. And watching it back, I do like him, but he is like just a rich middle class white man who wants a wine cellar. And
well, it's rich upper class as a doctor, but yeah.
Okay. So there is something dislikable about him, but you don't dislike him.
Yeah. So I was writing down. Okay, why don't I dislike him? I think it's first of all he's very humble. I think so. He doesn't come across as a know-it-all, even though he's clearly quite intelligent. He's modest. He never boasts, I don't think, at any point in the movie. Like, he doesn't boast about his wine cellar or his wine.
Except for that poor old truck drawer moving guy that's getting his wine out of the truck.
Well, the wine he does go easy with that one or something, but he doesn't do it in a dickish way. He doesn't go like, "Hey, easy,
it's $127 a bottle."
He doesn't give this delivery driver a heart, and he does crack a joke as well, where the guy goes, "Oh, you know, it must taste amazing." The driver goes, "Oh, that price, who can afford to drink it?" I also think I like him. So this speaks probably again, David, on the couch to my own insecurity. Is that he's not an aspirational. He's fat man. He has a fear. He's a scaredy cat, right? He's not.
Yep.
He's not Channing Tatum.
My name is Jeff.
Yeah. He's a regular guy. Again, there's reasons why you like Bruce Willis. He's not like jacked. Do you know what I mean? He's just a regular dude.
Yeah, okay. And the fact that he has kids and he's moved to this town that he doesn't really want to go to, but he's doing it for his family. Also, he is a doctor. Doctors are generally sort of high-standing members of society, aren't they?
Yeah, but he's like a local practice doctor, isn't he? He's not like some plastic surgeon, for example, that's raking in the cash, and you'd think, "Oh, I'm not sure. I'm not sure." He's not like selling, surgery. He's not selling operations and surgeries that might be debatable whether these people need them or not. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
He's just a regular doctor tending to, and he does the right thing by the old lady as well, doesn't he? At the beginning. He tells her to come off the medication, but he they joke about him wanting her wanting her to be riddled with disease so he can prescribe lots of medicine and get work. But this is a weird American thing as well, isn't it? Because in England it wouldn't make any difference whether she was riddled with disease or not, right? Unless he was a private doctor, I suppose. Which in America they're all private doctors.
I mean, talking about you're saying he's a bit of a scaredy cat. On the kind of second rewatch of this, because I watched it a couple of times, it jumped out to me how much they kind of lay it on that he's scared of spiders.
Oh, Jim, it's the worst scene in the film. Jim, it's so bad.
Well, I love this childhood
movie.
Trauma.
I love this movie, but this scene is just absolutely dreadful, right? For the simple reason, Jim, that he's been married to his wife, at least 10 years, 11 years, because those kids are 11 years old. And they keep going back and forth. Does she know this story or not?
Yeah.
Because he's telling it to her like she's never heard it before. But then she goes, I know, you couldn't move. You thought it was like this. And he's like, I was in the bed, I couldn't move. And she goes, oh, it was probably a daddy long legs. Like, have you never heard this story before? What's going on? It's such a terrible scene.
I can envision the crib all around me, clear as day. I can still feel a feeling of waking up, just drowsy, peaceful, secure, and then there it was.
Probably just a daddy long legs.
Yeah, well, it seemed huge, and it just came relentlessly, just crawling through the bars of the crib, and then as it touched my bare leg...
I know, you were just wearing a diaper.
All of my limbs involuntarily froze, just froze.
Probably still half asleep is all.
I was paralyzed, Molly. I still get paralyzed, okay? Just please try to understand how this makes me feel. I was just physically unable to stop it from crawling along my naked skin. I can still feel its hairy little legs, just then up to my face. It's just a feeling of utter helplessness, of being explored by an alien thing, that's all.
But that's the point. It was obviously so traumatic to him that he just has to retell it at any chance he gets.
I was thinking, like, it would have been so easy to just change the scene so he was telling his kids this story, and then it would make sense. Like, they probably hadn't heard it before.
That's true.
And also, he could mansplain it to the audience, and it would be fine.
But I think even like that scene aside, they keep, over the course of, I don't know, a 15-minute period, they keep sort of laying on the fact that he's scared of spiders. Like, his wife catches the little spider, takes it out to the barn, and, it just, to me, it just feels over the top. Now, I get it, because the whole point of this movie is that he has to overcome his fear to save his family.
Character development.
It's like he has to get over his fear of spiders, face his fear, blah, blah, blah. Great. But also, I would argue that, like, at least, I don't know, 50% of people are scared of spiders. It's not like it's a unique phobia that he has. So, like, why lay it on so thick?
But he's actually paralyzed with fear.
Yeah, but it just feels like this could be anybody.
How scared of spiders are you, Jim?
Well, I'm pretty scared of spiders. Like, not to the point where I'm, like, paralyzed with fear. But if I see one, it's like, oh, that scares the shit out of me. It's going to, bite me in my sleep and eat me alive.
Yeah, okay, so maybe you're speaking to... I'm not someone that's scared of spiders, I guess. So, I would happily catch them in a cup and put them outside.
Ooh, you're odd.
I wouldn't want to hurt a spider. Do you know what I mean? That's
man.
More what I'm...
Rolled up newspaper or a slipper.
Like, squish him. Oh, no.
Get rid of the little fucker.
Also, they could have done a flashback here, by the way, and that would also have been cool, to actually just show the scene with him with the spider in the bed. Had a little baby with the spider on his leg. I would have been pretty cool. Show, don't tell, watching a movie. Okay, so I also want to talk about how this movie is so good at establishing characters, side characters. So we get the scene with the cop at the beginning who's giving him the ticket, and then we get the story that he knows that his old lady that he was treating, that she was his teacher, and that he's a bully from his school. He's always been a bully. Yeah. We get the guy who was somehow connected to the family with from the photographer that died at the beginning, because they have like a dinner party. So he throws a dinner party to introduce himself to the town, and you get all these little scenes and all these side characters. You get quite a funny gag where she say that she goes, "Oh, they're xenophobic" or something, and then she goes, "No, we're Christians." Some sort of gag like that.
She says nepotism.
He's the Broncos' star quarterback.
Hi.
I taught him to throw a football before he could walk. I coached the team.
Nepotism, huh?
Actually, we're Baptists.
Decent gag. So yeah, by the end of that dinner scene, you've got the doctor, the older doctor that won't retire his position, and his wife. You've got the police chief who's annoying. You've got the nosy neighbor that wants to eat all the food. I think she's with the nosy neighbor's the guy who came with the coffin. And nothing's really happened. We're just getting to know characters, and we're already like 40 minutes into the movie.
Yeah.
And we already kind of know it, and it's just really. And I'm not bored. And even as a kid, I wasn't bored. That's what was surprising to me. I was like, I wasn't bored even when I was a kid watching this.
Yeah, but I think
again, it's because the camera's always moving, well edited. Yeah.
Absolutely, and also they keep, just sort of sprinkling in some spider shit. It's like you occasionally see a spider that's going to do something, or somebody's in some sort of danger, but nothing happens. But so there's just always this looming fear that something is going to happen. I think that kind of gets you through this character building section, is that at any point something could happen, which is quite well done, I think.
They do pepper it with a few deaths. Obviously, you get the old lady dies, and then the kid on the sports fields died. And it has almost got the structure of a slasher movie.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
But again, the death scenes are not these big elaborate murders like you'd get in a Scream or a slasher film. They're kind of low key, and it's more like but they are very tense, because you're like, oh no, the spider's gone in the helmet. Is he gonna get killed? But it's not gory, it's not violent, so it's just very well done. Like, again, it's the quality of the filmmaking that's keeping you entertained. I was very distracted by an actor in this movie called Peter Jason. Do you know who I'm talking about?
This is the high school football coach guy, right?
Because he came on screen and I was like, it's Meatloaf. Did you not think? He looks exactly like Meatloaf, this guy.
Like
I had to Google it. I was like, oh, it's not Meatloaf. It's some guy called Peter Jason.
His name is Robert Paulson. His name is Robert Paulson. His name is Robert Paulson. His name is Robert Paulson.
Come on, guys,
His
please,
name
stop it.
is Robert Paulson. His name is Robert Paulson.
It's like, I don't remember Meatloaf in this movie. Put them side by side, Fish, in the images. They are identical. And in 48 minutes I put into this movie, John Goodman shows up. So we're still introducing characters.
I know. They take their time, don't they, to introduce him. But I think it works really well because it kind of shifts the tone of the movie, doesn't it? Because this is where it becomes
into
more of a comedy
now. Yes.
Yeah. And I think that works really well because up until that point, it's kind of like, oh shit, people are going to die. It's, just a spider movie. It's terrifying. And then all of a sudden, this like comic character comes along. It's like a nice little breath of fresh air.
He was nailing something in the cellar and the wood just disintegrated.
Termites, huh?
And that's what my husband thought.
And he's an expert in these matters.
Well, no.
Didn't think so. Well, I'm glad you called me. No room for amateurs in this game.
But even when John Goodman comes in as like the comedic character, he doesn't like throw the movie out of balance. He just kind of blends straight into the movie and becomes part of the cast. It's not like if Jim Carrey showed up suddenly, oh, it's the Jim Carrey show.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean? And the whole movie becomes about him. So he's funny, but he's not like so funny it destabilizes the film.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I think that's good. Can we talk about this sequence, Jim, with the spider on the wall and the hook? Now, obviously, as a kid, I couldn't do this. I don't think I did this because I didn't go back and rewind it and watch it. Did you do that this time?
I think I did. I mean, I seem to remember doing it before.
Because the movie cheats.
Yeah, it does. Hugely.
Yeah, so basically there's a scene where they're in a room and it's kind of a bit dark and they see a spider on the wall that's huge and you're like, oh my god, there's a giant spider on the wall, and he gets like a towel and he goes up and he whips the towel, and then it's like, oh, it's just a coat hanger, it's just like a hook on a wall for hanging coats. But the movie cheats.
Yeah.
Because it isn't a coat hanger on the wall hanger when they first show you it. It is actually a spider,
it's a
isn't
big fucking spider. It's basically got like googly eyes on it. You can definitely see that it's a spider.
And I was like, is it okay that the movie cheats? And I guess it is, but it just feels wrong.
It does feel wrong. But I think it's okay that it cheats because it's kind of like it's putting you in the position of him and he's seeing what he is seeing at that point is a spider. So if it looks like a spider, then I get that. And I think it's a nice sequence.
I agree.
It is cool.
It's again very well edited, very well shot. You've got the two MVPs of this movie are the editor and the cinematographer. But yeah, that made me think about one of my pet peeves in cinema and audiences' understanding of cinema as a whole. Jim, I don't know if you've ever spoken about this, where like it's fine, I get it, yeah. So like you think the character thinks he's seeing a spider on the wall, so we as the audience see a spider on the wall. And one of my big pet peeves in cinema, other than the 5 years earlier or 5 months earlier, is when in movies characters talk to imaginary characters,
right? And
audience members go, "Oh, he thought that guy was there, but he was just imagining him. He wasn't real." And I'm like, guys, it's just film's a visual medium. This is just a way of visualizing a character talking to themselves in their own head, like we all do. We sit at our desk and we think to ourselves.
Yeah.
And so, like, on a movie, you have an imaginary character in the room, but it doesn't mean he literally believes he's seeing somebody in that room. He's seeing somebody that's not there. It's just a way of visualizing a conversation or a thought in your own head. So some movies, obviously there are characters that do actually see people that aren't there.
Sure.
But they often do use it in movies about mental illness.
Yes. Okay.
Do you know what I mean? And so that's again a bigger pet peeve, like A Beautiful Mind. Do you know, you've seen that movie with Russell Crowe?
Yeah.
Where it's like, they go, oh, these people weren't there. He was imagining these people all the time. It's like, well, no, he wasn't. In real life, he just had these dark thoughts and voices in his head. But, you know, you can't, that's just a way of visually showing it on screen. But, sorry, that was a big tangent rant. Sorry, apologies. Right, moving on. Quite all right. I love the egg sacs in these films. That's, you know, these little spider egg sacs.
It's very
Great
cool.
little practical effect. They're kind of popping and oozing and... Oh, yeah. And did you... So that... Just... Actually, should we talk about the practical effects in this movie?
Let's talk about this, the spider.
When I was watching it this time, Jim, I was thinking, how did they do that? I was thinking, how did they do that when they had the spiders on the web? So do you know how they did it? Because I went and looked it up. Well, I freeze framed it and I was looking. I was like, are they doing what I think they're doing? They really are. Did you know what they're doing? You know when a spider comes down on a web?
Right. Okay. Oh, you like on a like a string of web, like sort of descending from the ceiling or something. Go on.
They've stuck it to the spider, or they've tied it to a spider. It's a real spider.
Yeah.
And they've stuck the string to the spider, or they've tied it to the spider. And I don't think you could do that now safely. And they literally are, because I noticed that when the girl's in the shower, you can actually see the string is tied to the spider.
Wow.
And they are luring it down.
Amazing.
So whether they had a spider wrangler or a guy who tied the string to it.
Well, I can tell you they did have a spider wrangler. They had spider wranglers, plural, I think. So, I mean, I'm sure you've looked into this, but they basically got these spiders from New Zealand, I believe. They're called Avondale spiders. No. So they did like spider auditions, and they tried to find the most scariest looking... but you know, harmless spiders, right? And they kind of went. I think they looked at like huntsman and a bunch of other spiders, but they found these Avondale spiders from New Zealand, and they, you know, had to talk to the authorities. They had like 300 of them shipped over, and that was like apparently just the first batch as well. They brought more because spiders don't live very long apparently, so they brought a whole bunch over. Then
not when they're filming a Spielberg movie.
Well, exactly. Yeah.
But I'm amazed. Can you imagine the trauma of trying to film this today and actually not making sure that no spider is killed?
Well,
through fear of like.
And that's the thing. They went to great lengths to make sure that all these spiders were safe and they were, you know, looked after. So there's like there's a shot where like a book is thrown down on one. There's a shot where John Goodman steps on one, and you know they like had to hollow out a shoe so that they could step on it, and so it went into the shoe. And the same with the book. And apparently the spiders were very well looked after. So the whole tying a string to it was probably done very carefully.
Yeah, but I'm just thinking, like, if a spider were, you know, accidentally to perish, in this movie, they could probably have gotten away with it. Whereas these days, with these snowflakes everywhere, Jim, the kids today, the spider death would be plastered all over social media, and they would cancel. You know,
Alec Baldwin would be back on the stand.
Freeze! Woke police.
Jeff Daniels to face criminal charges for stepping on spider.
Dear.
I didn't mean it. I thought I was wearing soft shoes. I thought the hole was in the shoe. The shoe didn't have a hole in it. Who's the shoe wrangler? Didn't cut the hole out properly.
It was you, John. If the shoe fits.
That's right. You should have checked that shoe. I was told it was a cold shoe.
But anyway, back to the practical effects.
Yes.
In some shots you can definitely tell it's a fake spider, right?
Oh yeah.
But
sometimes it doesn't matter.
No, exactly. And it's quite cool, isn't it? Because it's, you know, it's fairly realistic. It's, you know, it looks pretty good. But you can definitely tell at some point. But then other points you're like, oh, is that real? Is that a fake spider? I don't know. So it's quite good.
So an example of where it's a fake spider and I don't care because it's just so awesome. And it's so well shot. Like if you told me that, like, you know, Kubrick shot this or something, like like that shot at the end where he's got like, it's incredible. Like he's got the aerosol can and the flamethrower and he's flamethrowing the things and you see the flames reflecting in the spider's eyes. I was like, this is so cool. Amazing. I know it's a fake spider. They didn't really film a spider up close and get the reflection of the flame in its eyes, but I was like, wow.
I was going to say, they must have built like like a 4-foot big old version of a spider for that shot. Apparently, the guy that designed and built the spider. So it's like in reality, it was about, I don't know, a foot long, 15 inches long, maybe. The spider, it was huge. It was a big spider. And I forget his name now, but the guy that designed and built it is like one of the guys from Mythbusters.
Oh yeah, I had heard that. Yeah, this is one of his first gigs.
Yeah.
The guy from Mythbusters.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. So at the end of the movie, we haven't talked about that, where they just flood this house with spiders. I mean, is it a Shining reference in the bathroom? It kind of feels like a Shining thing, where they're trapped in the bathroom and they go out the window.
You know what? I didn't get that when I was watching it, but now you've said it. Yeah, very possibly.
You think it feels very... Yeah, again, it helps with the Stephen King feeling.
Yes.
Yeah, because at the end of the movie, they're trapped in a bathroom. The bathroom feels very much like the Shining bathroom.
Yes.
And they go out the window. So whether it was inspired by that or not, but I definitely got a Shining vibe.
One of the other things that I liked about this movie is as we get to the end, because we talked about it previously on another podcast. I can't remember which one it was. I think it was Gremlins, where I kind of like these movies that are like countdown movies, where there's like a ticking clock to something happening, and this also feels like that, where if they don't do something now, these spiders are going to spread and go everywhere. And I kind of like that whole scene where they grab the map and they figure out that the barn, Jennings' barn is where they're coming from. It's just awesome. It's just a really cool like thing that's happening, and they have to figure it out and they have to do it in time.
Did you notice there was a big 80-yard line where they go, because they have because basically it's like a video game at the end where you've got two final bosses, because you think one's the final boss and then there's another boss, because I think you get the queen. Who's the bigger boss? Is it the queen and then the general, or is it the general then the queen? I can't remember what order they do it in.
I'm not sure.
I think it's the queen then the general.
Right.
But they ADR a line where he goes like a general, because they have to establish the bigger spider.
Where is it? That was the goddamn general.
Right. So I think they just had two big spiders at the end, but they didn't like give them a little power ranking, so they had to kind of put that in to establish that one was the general.
Yeah,
the general spider. Like, that's a thing. That's not really a thing.
Well, right. So here's the thing as well that I found about watching this as an adult is, like, when I was younger, I obviously didn't understand all of that stuff about the smaller spiders being drones and just going out, and the fact that the general
it's all bullshit, right? But yeah.
Well, yeah, and it's equally as confusing as an adult, I think. Less so. You kind of understand it a bit more. But is it more confusing because it's completely fabricated and it would never happen, it's not a real thing? Or is it just not explained very well in the movie?
Basically, they want you to think of the spiders like bees.
Yeah.
But spiders aren't bees, but that's how they want you to think of it. Like, you have a queen and you have drones and they can't breed, and there's a queen one. And that is because of the boss. And again, looking at it now, this is obviously ripped off. This is ripped off from Aliens. That's what they're going for here. The whole structure of this film is actually James Cameron's Aliens. And even when they're doing the little autopsy on the spider, and it's actually like the face hugger autopsy, where you've got the android there, like looking at the spider and looking at this is a drone. There's no breeding. Like, it's almost shot for shot the face hugger. In Aliens when they're doing.
Didn't think about that.
Sick reference though, bro.
Oh, thanks, bud.
Dude, your references are out of control. Everyone knows that.
Yeah, but this idea of having the drones and having the queen at the end, the structure is very Aliens. Yeah, so they're trying to do that, and at the end you have the big fight with the queen. So yeah, probably why I love this movie so much as well.
I'm still confused though, because he does fight like two big spiders, right?
Yeah, one is the queen and one is the general.
Right,
the general I think is maybe just the king.
So the general is the one that
like
came
the original
over,
one that bred
from Venezuela, right?
I think so.
So where did the queen come from?
Well, she's the one that laid the egg sac, right?
But she's not just like a common household spider.
No, they must have because he breeds with a normal household spider. So a queen must have been born at some point. So
see, right. It's confusing, isn't it?
Now I think
it is confusing.
Yeah. Okay. Should we go to categories?
We need that long-haired entomologist to come along and explain it all to us. We haven't really talked about him.
No. He had a terrible death for someone that was supposed to be smart, wasn't he? That's what I thought as well. I was like, you're too smart to die this way.
Yeah, that is true. But also, they do set him up as a dickhead very early on in the film. So you kind of know he's going to die, which...
Because he's British.
In this first generation, the original male also produced a queen. And together they will construct a primary nest, which the queen will guard. But eventually, she will create reproductive offspring of her own. And when that happens, this town is dead. And the next town, and the next town, and the next one, and so on.
Irvine's the mortuary where the infestation must have originated. If we can just get in there and destroy the original male.
And the primary nest. I'll call the Department of Agriculture.
Yeah, okay. His phone's in the office.
I'll see you later at the mortuary.
Right.
Sheriff, you'll give me a ride.
Well, just also because he's just a bit of an arsehole, isn't he? Like he doesn't go like full arsehole to everyone, but he is a bit of a dick most of the film. So, and yeah, because he's British and pompous as well, I think it's like right. This guy's going to die.
He's kind of like, see, again, that's why Aliens is cool, because he is like the bishop. He is the bishop android character, but he turns out to be a good guy at the end and help him out, which would have been a better character swing for this guy if he had been cool and helped him out at the end. Anyway, let's go to categories.
Put your feet up, get yourself a cup of tea. It's time for categories.
Okay, time for categories. The first category being best line from the movie.
There's lots of good, just little character moments in this. So I like when the old doctor dies that doesn't want to give up the job, and then she goes, "Oh, thank God you didn't examine him this morning." Oh yeah, and there's obviously the Jeff Goldblum scene where he's like,
Jeff Goldblum.
She's like, "Why is this wood bad?" No, John Goldblum. John Goodman. Jeff Goldblum would have been good in recasting this.
Bad? Why is it bad?
Yo. 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 Yo.
Yeah, no, John Goodman going, yeah, bad wood, rip out bad wood, put in good wood. That's a fun scene.
Would anybody object if I tore this floor out?
I would.
False alarm, then lead on. Bad wood.
Well, so what do we do?
Tear out bad wood. Put in good wood.
My husband thought this would make a good wine cellar.
Oh, yeah?
I do feel like he's basically doing a Bill Murray from Caddyshack impression the whole way through this movie. But also, like, everything he says is hilarious. So, like, best line from the movie, just anything John Goodman says. Okay, next category, nitpicks and shit bits. Wow.
I already nitpicked the scene, didn't I? I said it, the background explanation scene.
Yes.
That's shit, and it's a nitpick. Is there anything else that I didn't? I think that's the only thing. I think that's why I hate it so much, because I think otherwise the movie's pretty perfect.
Yeah, I mean, it is pretty good. There's a few things in it and these are small nitpicks. It was, the shower scene like annoyed me a little bit. It felt very like, guys, we need to get some tits in here. How do we get some tits in this movie? Let's get some teenage tits into this movie. I know, right? Yeah, it's awkward.
Freeze!
Yeah.
Woke police.
You're right. They could have at least gone with age-appropriate nudity, I suppose. Maybe that was in the script. I agree. It's not. Thankfully, they don't show anything. Otherwise, yeah, it would have killed the movie. So you can still kind of get away with it.
True.
It's not Nuns on the Run where we suddenly get it suddenly becomes Carry On. Suddenly it becomes a Carry On film. I thought we'll get on it. I thought the wife character was underserved. She didn't have a lot to do. She could have come in at the end and actually done something heroic, which would have been nice to kind of help her husband out. But it is the Jeff Daniels show at the end, isn't it?
It is. It was also pointed out to me while I was watching this film with my partner that this film kind of there's a trope of like 90s. There's a trope of 90s movies, right, where you've got this successful male character, and then the wife is like just pursuing her art, and that seems to be something that is sort of brought up quite often in 90s movies. Like it happened in Ghost. It's like, okay, she's just going to do her pottery. This girl's just gonna.
I think
do her painting.
Yeah, so I think in the 90s, it was part of being like the perfect man was that you'd go off and work and you'd allow the wife to fulfill her dreams.
To do fuck all.
So that you were seen as, yeah, but something creative that isn't a real career or job. Yeah, and you'll do it. That is allowing you to be, that allows you to be a better man. I think that was a thing in the 90s that the dream man is the earner.
Yeah,
and he earns enough cash that the wife can actually pursue stuff that she wants to do, and without having to worry about money because he's so loaded and such a great bloke.
It just feels like even more when you watch more 90s movies, it does seem to come up a bit, and it just feels so out of date. It feels so out of touch with reality.
Yeah, and there's a scene where it's like they're talking like she might have to go back to work, and because he's and it's like real shock horror, like, oh my god, the wife's gonna have to work.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? You see it, and she's like, I could ring up some old clients, I could make some bookings. Like, oh god, we've really hit rock bottom. Oh no. I was like, heaven forbid that you might actually have to do some work. Yeah.
What are we gonna do?
Kill him?
I have my fax machine. I can work part-time from here. A phone and a fax machine, that's all I need. I'll call my old clients, tell them I'm available part-time, and with just half my commissions.
We're gonna be fine. We'll be all right, just like you said.
With one patient?
Well, maybe I'll get lucky and all of her systems will be ravaged by disease.
We mentioned earlier that this film is, fairly well directed. The cinematography is awesome. Mm-hmm. I did feel like when I was watching it, though, it's obvious that the spiders were difficult to work with. I don't mean from a personality perspective, but just like
divas, those spiders
sitting in their trailers, like smoking cigars and not coming on set until they get their caveat. But
till they get their flyers.
Yeah. It's you can just tell sometimes that the shots are a bit kind of locked, and it's like, okay, we need to get these spiders to do something. So some of the shots feel less fluid than they could, just because of that restraint, I guess, which you kind of understand.
You're right.
But yeah,
I don't think anyone would notice. I think that's a filmy. Yeah, it's a nitpick. Like, it's as film people, and because the rest of the movie is so fluid and well shot. Yeah. You do notice that the spider camera shots are locked off. But yeah.
Next category: recast this. Pick a 90s actor and recast the movie to make it better.
So Jeff Daniels is miscast, but it works. He's definitely cast against type. Like, this should be a Mel Gibson movie. This should be like a Dennis Quaid, like a more established Patrick Swayze kind of leading man role. But it's better that it is Jeff Daniels, is what I'm saying. I don't want to recast it, but I think you could recast the wife. Definitely, I don't think she's a strong actress in this, and you could, instantly it's a more interesting film if it's Jodie Foster, if it's Sigourney Weaver, if it's Demi Moore. But you would have actually had to give her something to do.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? There's a lot of opportunity to do something with that character that they didn't do. You could put bigger personalities in this. Like I said, you could put Jeff Goldblum in there instead of John Goodman. Or Chris Walken. Chris Walken kind of plays this character in Mouse Hunt. Have you ever seen that?
Yeah.
Steals the movie.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it is, it is pretty well cast, maybe apart from his wife. I think, I don't think, you said like Mel Gibson, but I just think that the good thing about Jeff Daniels, he is like an everyman, he's kind of a bit, not weird looking, but, a normal guy, isn't he? He's not, overtly masculine or anything. And that kind of plays into it.
I think you could have done something fun with the older Doctor, like a little bit of stunt casting there that doesn't want to retire. Like maybe if you'd got like Clint Eastwood, or do you know what I mean? Like you could have really got somebody cool, a cool older actor for that role.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean that's the other thing. We've talked about this in the past, Dave, about because this film falls into the category of creature feature, whereby it's a realistic sized spider, and I wonder if there was a temptation to make this spider twice as big and make it like really kind of huge. And I'm glad they didn't, obviously, because it makes it more realistic. But do you think that would have?
Yeah, it's as big as it can be, but still be realistic.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're right. And the minute it becomes anything bigger than that, the movie becomes a bit silly.
Yes.
It is a strength, and you're right. And now, now they just wouldn't. Even if they kept it the same size, it would have been a bright color or something. Do you know what I mean? They would have over designed it.
Yeah.
You're right. It's very grounded in reality.
Next category: kill the lead. Inspired by Pulp Fiction, obviously. Kill the lead halfway through this movie.
If you'd killed Jeff Daniels, I would have been very sad, but it would have been unexpected. Would I have preferred the movie? It depends who replaces him. If John Goodman, you can't, because it's just too sad, isn't it? If he dies, and it's not that kind of movie because he's a family man. He's got a wife and kids, so it would be really shocking if they killed him.
Yeah.
But maybe it would have been good though, Jim. Would have been good.
Would have been cool.
But there's no one naturally that could replace him in the movie with the cast that they've got.
No.
If John Goodman comes in and takes over, it would just still be sad. I like Jeff too much.
Yeah. No, it doesn't work for this movie. I mean, like I said earlier, though, I think they kind of kill the lead in the first 15 minutes. So I'm going to say that they.
Oh, that's talking about recasting it. That's who they should have recast. They should have put a better leading man at the beginning.
Next category is food from the movie. What looks appetizing from this movie that you want to eat, Dave?
This is for this special Arachnophobia episode. It's wine from the movie, right?
Wine from the movie.
You want to drink all of this stuff, don't you? I do.
It all looks lovely. I mean, usually when we do this category, we kind of struggle to think if there was any food in the movie. But I did notice.
Know what?
There's a few meals in here.
I've got it, Jim. I've got it. This is how we should have. You know who they should have cast instead of Jeff Daniels?
Oh my God, we're going back a category. Go on.
Paul Giamatti. He's back as his Sideways character. It's the sequel. He's there with Virginia Madison. Can you him and Virginia Madison are together? They move into this new town, and then instead of John Goodman, it's what's his name comes back. Thomas Church comes in, rolls in. Goes, hey buddy, you got a spider problem? I'm here. We're gonna take these guys down. How amazing would that be?
I get on board with that. Yeah.
What the fuck? What is up with you? You remember our little talk outside? Get your shit together.
I'm fine. I'm fine.
Where were you?
Bathroom?
Did you drink and dial?
Oh, you know when we can get AI generated movies? That's what I'm doing.
That's what you're doing.
I'm plugging in Paul Giamatti, Virginia Madison, Thomas Hayden Church, and we're getting the Sideways sequel. Sideways 2, Arachnophobia. Amazing.
I'd watch that. All right, next category. Insert or a musical number.
Oh, we didn't have a musical number in this film.
No.
Is there even a song? Actually, we didn't talk about the score's really good. Like kind of main Arachnophobia theme. We'll play it now. The da 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 doo da.
Yes.
Da da. It's really good.
We always have to mention the score. It's just something that Fish usually brings up, being a musician / producer himself. I'm just having a quick look at who did write the score for this movie. And what
It didn't jump out when the credits were there, to me at least. But you're right. Let's have a look. Music by Trevor Jones.
Now that name sounds familiar.
So what has he done? Last of the Mohicans. That was pretty big.
Here you go.
Cliffhanger. That's what he did.
Cliffhanger. Notting Hill. From
I don't.
Hell.
These aren't. I can't immediately think of the music though to any of these.
No, that's true. Yeah, I mean he's not John Williams, is he? But solid.
Who is
solid? Yeah. All right. Okay, next category. We are going to talk about the Bechdel test, also known as the Bechdel-Wallace test, which is a measure of representation of women in fiction. Now, does this movie pass? I will say yes, it does.
Do you know that it does?
Yes, I do know that it does. When they are at the party early on in the movie, the outdoor garden party, Jennings' wife asks the football coach's daughter if she's thought about college or what she's going to do about college.
Brilliant.
It's a very quick, and she names her as well. She's like, "Oh, hey Becky, what are you going to do about college?" Blah blah blah.
Yeah, and I guess this is where the Bechdel test falls down a little bit, because there are strong. The older lady is a strong female character, and she talks to other characters about things that aren't men. It's just that she's not talking to another woman.
Mm-hmm.
I guess.
Yeah.
But you do see women having conversations that aren't about men.
Yeah. I do think though that, again, we talk about this for the reasons we do, because any one of these characters could have been a woman, I think. Because there is a strong
probably could have and should have been
male cast here. You got Jeff Daniels, John Goodman, Julian Sands playing the entomologist, even his sidekick Brian McNamara, the police chief.
Also, is it an all-white cast, Jim?
Well, that's also very true. Yeah. Wow.
But in this one, I did notice that it kind of is okay in that it's a small American town, so I kind of get it. Actually, isn't the delivery driver black? I think he is. The delivery driver delivers the wine. Yeah. And obviously there's some Venezuelans at the beginning.
Of course, yeah.
But this is going to take us nicely, and as we go on to another category, I've got some ideas. So go on.
Okay,
carry on.
Okay, next category. Would this movie be better non-linear?
Absolutely not. Unless they showed the flashback sequence of him as a kid seeing the spider, then I think they should have been in there.
That would have been unnecessary. But no, I don't think you can do this non-linear, can you? It's it just wouldn't make any sense. There's no need to. Does another movie do this better?
So should we say spider films?
I think spider films. Now I'm going to come right out and say it, that I don't think I've ever seen any others.
Oh, I've seen a few,
okay.
But they're all B-movie trash.
So the big one that came out was it Eight-Legged Freaks?
Yeah, that was in the 2000s with Scarlett Johansson and David Arquette.
Okay, any good?
No.
Okay.
It was a weird screwball comedy with like CGI spiders, and they kind of tried to make it Gremlins with spiders. So the spiders like make sounds and make noises, and they're weird.
Yeah.
It was kind of like Snakes on a Plane before Snakes on a Plane. Do you know what I mean? It was just this goofy. There are no other good. I mean, obviously Spider-Man, but that doesn't count.
Spider-Man. No, that doesn't count.
But no, there are no other good Spider movies.
No, and that's surprising.
There's a movie that's so bad it's good. Yeah, why aren't there not? Why are shark movies so popular, but spider movies no? You think maybe there's a gap in the market here for some spiders.
It's very odd. I guess you can't really do much more with them, though, can you? It's not like. I don't know.
Again, we've had 100 shark films.
True.
Is it because... Are shark movies popular because you film on the ocean? So is that cheap? Then doing a spider movie where you film in a town? I guess it is.
I couldn't have thought so.
Why?
Like, surely shooting on boats in the middle of the ocean's, more expensive.
Were there spider movies that came out and failed? So audience just want?
I don't know.
Want sharks? Strange.
It's very odd, but it's just but it makes this movie quite unique in a way, doesn't it? That it's like the biggest and best spider movie. Unless we are missing some, if listeners.
Should we look it up? This is a quick Google.
All right.
Films with spiders. Now the B movie trash one I'm thinking of is a movie called Arachnid.
Yes.
Which is so bad it's good.
Okay.
It was it was on Arrow Video. I don't think you can buy it anymore. So look. Films about spiders. No, I mean, there is a giant spider in, obviously, the Lord of the Rings films.
There's always giant spiders in a few, Jumanji's got giant spiders.
Yeah, you have spiders in
Home Alone's got a spider.
That's true. But spiders tend to be a creature in fantasy films, I guess, rather than have their own films. Like there's lots of spiders in Harry Potter, for example. But
So, in terms of another movie doing this better, I think this is the best spider movie, so we can agree on that. So another movie doing this better, I mean, if we go into creature features or that kind of thing, there's going to be clear winners over this.
Tremors, it's better this.
Yeah, Tremors, Jaws, all that kind of stuff.
Aliens.
I mean, even The Birds, I would say is up there. Yeah. And I only say that because it's just a very similar movie in a small town, kind of overtaken by creatures. Okay, memorabilia from the movie. What memorabilia do you want, Dave? What little trinkets do you want from this film?
I mean, I'd love I guess if you're gonna get something from the movie that is arachnophobia, that like, oh, that's from Arachnophobia, I'd probably get the egg sac, just like maybe like a sculpt of that in the background, just with like some spiders on it. Do you know what I mean?
Bubbling away in the corner of your room. That'd be cool. Wouldn't it?
Yeah. The spider web paintings that they hang in the doctor's office, that'd be cool. Or the photographs, the spider web, one of them.
Pretty cool. Or just like a dead spider in like a frame, you know? Like one of
in a
those.
case.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of want John Goodman's, sort of, I don't know what you'd call it, holster gun pack thing that he uses to spray the spiders with. That'd be pretty awesome. But yeah, the egg sac's good. Just quickly while we're talking about the egg sac, when he kind of finally nail guns the spider into the egg sac at the end, and previous to that, when he sort of flips the spider into the flames, I thought the sound design was a bit heavy on this. Like this spider's like squealing like a pig.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
Like...
yeah, exactly that. Yes. That was one for the audiences.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But also the spiders, I don't know if this was intentional. Again, you know when he sets the spider on fire and it's like running around squealing like a pig, like you're right. It's like legs fall off as well.
Oh, really? I didn't notice that.
Yeah, because the leg falls off as it's running around. I was like, oh my God. I don't know if that was intentional or not. Terrific.
It's just a great movie though, because you get this whole like, oh, the spider's burnt, and then it jumps out of the flames. It's like comes back for one last
he nail
try.
guns it.
It's just excellent.
Yeah.
It's so
great.
good.
Excellent.
So good. All right, next one. Interesting. Remake, sequel, or Paul Feig gender swap?
So this is the one I've been waiting for, Jim. So I have a real clear pitch here. But do you have any ideas?
Not strong ones. You go first.
Okay, so here's my pitch, right? How you could redo this movie now and make it relevant and good. So I think there is a theme in this movie that doesn't really work, right? So the idea is the spider is an interloper. It's in this town. It doesn't belong there. It's a foreign agent that's been brought into this small town, right?
Uh-huh.
That is supposed to parallel, I'm guessing, Jeff Daniels, who's also like a big city doctor coming to a small town. But it doesn't really work, as a metaphor or symbolism.
Yeah.
So if you're remaking this movie, obviously you cast a black leading man or a man of color, and then you have him come to this small-minded town where no one likes him, and he's into, and then then that parallels the spider a little bit more, where they both come to this town, and the idea is the spider thrives, it breeds, and it's really successful, but he is not. He is not the spider because he is not being accepted by the town, and he's not getting in. And I think that in a remake is where I'd go with it.
Okay,
and obviously it modernizes it and makes it a little bit more relevant.
Having said that, right, so this film was, I think, mildly successful financially. I think.
Yes. Did you look? I did look it up. Actually, I didn't talk about it at the beginning. I generally find this boring. So it was made for 30 million. It grossed just under 60. But Wikipedia tells me it made a further 30 million on home video, which I can totally believe. This is the ultimate rent it movie, right? I'm going to Blockbuster. What do I want to watch?
Yeah.
Arachnophobia. I'll grab that off the shelf. Yeah, it looks like a fun Friday night movie.
Yeah.
Also, now we're talking about Blockbuster in the video, there's this weird urban, well, it's true, it's a real thing, but this weird mystery around Arachnophobia on VHS. Do you know about this?
Go on. I may know something, but go on.
The original poster versus the VHS?
Yeah, so the spider was removed, right? Or put back in?
But apparently it was just a mistake. Like, no one knows why this happened. Okay. So on the original poster of Arachnophobia, it's a cool poster. You've got a town, a moon, and a spider coming down from a tree, and the spider kind of overlaps the moon. And then on the VHS cover, the spider is gone. It's not there. It's missing. And no one knows why.
Very odd.
And my VHS copy had a missing spider as well. So if you can throw up those images, just a weird thing. Now, some people have speculated it was the spider web that they wanted to get rid of so you could have the words from the good reviews, round it. But there's no reason to take the spider off the moon.
Yeah.
Unless they thought, oh, well, it's going to be floating there. But even on the VHS cover, there are no quotes. I
Very
think it's
strange.
a mistake.
Yeah.
That somehow made it out the door.
But yeah,
there is a remake happening though.
Is there? Okay.
Coming out next year.
Wow, didn't know
or
that.
This year even. Yes, it's being directed by Christopher Landon, who's a really cool director. He did oh God, what did he do? The slasher movie where it's mixed with Groundhog Day. What's that one called? Happy Death Day. He did Happy Death Day 1 and 2, which are excellent films. And Happy Death Day 2 is one of the best sequels of all time.
Yeah.
Dave's going out there and saying it.
So getting back to the movie though, so even when I was a kid, and even now as an adult rewatching it, I hate the last scene where they move back to San Francisco and then there's an earthquake, and it's like, okay, there's an earthquake. I don't like. It just always stood out as being really weird.
I write anything about that?
It's like, oh, okay, so there's an earthquake. Is that just as bad as I understand that there's this thing about there's always going to be a problem wherever you move to, but I think they missed a real trick with the end of this movie, because they've just moved into a new house. There's like cardboard boxes everywhere. An earthquake happens, and they run out of the room to check on the kids. It's like, just have a little spider crawl out of the box.
Oh, Jim!
Just do it. You may as well. It is that kind of movie, and it's
sequel
like,
bait it.
Just
at the
do
end.
it, because otherwise this whole end scene is just pointless. Like, it doesn't make
Jim,
any sense.
You don't end Aliens with a face hugger, do you? Come on now.
This ain't Aliens though, Dave. That's the thing. Like,
well, I think we've established it is Aliens, but sure, Aliens with spiders.
Yeah, I just think they should have done it or got rid of that scene completely. Next category, what's not woke?
So you said the teenage girl in the shower. We've talked about the wife character not really having much to do. We've talked about how there are no people of color in this movie other than the delivery driver.
I mean, completely unrelated to the category, something else has just popped into my mind about it's just a confusion when I was a kid of when Dr. Jennings goes to examine the football team.
Oh, the coughing.
The coughing scene, yeah. He's, so as
this does not happen in England.
Well, exactly.
This is an American thing.
And this is why it's always confused me, because so apparently this is like to check for hernias, is that right?
I thought it was to check for testicular cancer.
Maybe. Maybe. I thought it was hernias, but I don't know.
Hernias are in your chest, though, Jim. They're in, like, you get them in your belly, don't you? Well, that's where Joey got one in Friends. That's the only hernia I know about. Like, your intestine pops out through your... A hernia is when your intestine breaks through your, like, lining.
Yes. Well, I have had a hernia, and I had an inguinal hernia, which presents itself in your upper scrotum area. So, yeah, it's not pleasant. It's weird.
Well, thank you for sharing.
Well,
But if I cupped your testicles and you coughed, I would have been able to feel it.
Well, I don't know. This is I still don't understand it. And like,
well, I hope if someone did it to you, that you didn't know. No one did it to you.
Somebody cupped my balls. I don't know if that was what they were doing.
It is what they do in prison. Play the clip.
Joey's Taylor took advantage of me. What? Oh, come on. He said he was going to do my inseam, then he ran his hand up my leg, and then there was definite... What? Cupping.
That's how they do pants. First they go up one side, they move it over, then they go up the other side, they move it back, and then they do the rear. What? Ross, will you tell him? Isn't that how a tailor measures pants?
Yes, it is. In prison.
Right. So no. Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure it's testicular cancer, Jim. So, like, if you have
think it is. I think it's
lump
hernias.
on your testicles, right? Let's Google it. Okay, so my theory is if you have a lump on your testicles and you cough, the doctor will feel that lump move. As in he'll feel it on your testicles. Okay, why do doctors ask you to cough while holding balls? Here we go. A doctor can feel for a hernia. Jim, you are correct. By using his or her fingers to examine the area around the groin and testicles. The doctor may ask you to cough while pressing on or feeling the area. Sometimes the hernia can cause a bulge that the doctor can detect. If this happens, surgery always repairs the hernia already. Okay, well, I learned something today.
There you go. I don't know why I brought it up anymore. It was just a weird scene.
Well, I mean,
It
you're
confused
right,
me when
as
I
a
was a
kid.
kid, and I just it was very strange. I don't know if
It is strange. Again, that does not happen in England. I've never heard that happening. I've never spoken to anyone that's had that done. It is an American thing. I've seen other American movies where they do it.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to Fish editing this podcast about our hernia chat. If any of this gets left in, listeners, you have to understand Fish is not recording
It has
this
to
today,
stay in.
but he does edit all of the podcasts, so he will be editing this.
Yes. God bless him. Let's see what image he uses for this story on the visual accompaniment that this podcast provides.
Let's move on.
Or maybe the hernia story can be something for our Patreons. Thanks for paying.
Oh dear.
It's that glorious extra content that you've been paying for.
Pay extra for
we only give you the good stuff.
A ball cupping. All right.
Yeah.
Next category.
Actually, that's our premium tier Patreon. If you wish to subscribe, Jim will personally cup your balls and while you cough and check for a hernia. It's the highest tier we offer on the Patreon.
Next category. What is the legacy of this movie?
You know what? I think it's it's getting a remake, right? So that's great.
Yep.
So it's going to get a lot of attention next year, but I think it's pretty forgotten. I don't hear it talked about. It's not. I don't see it making lists. It's not one of these movies that's going to be on the best movies of the 90s.
No.
It didn't have a lot of sequels. It's not IP that's got value. They haven't Jurassic Parked it already. Will the remake be successful? I'm not so sure. Is it going to be a big hit? We'll see, Jim.
We'll see,
I wouldn't bank on it.
I think it's very, it's fondly remembered by our generation, though. I think, over the last couple of weeks, while I've been sort of saying to people what the next podcast is going to be, they're like, "Oh, cool, Arachnophobia. Yeah, I remember watching that when I was a kid." I think, people like this movie. Very popular at the time. It spawned a novelization. I think there was also a comic book and
a video game, apparently.
And a video game, yeah. Do you remember that? I'd forgotten about it, and then I looked on YouTube of someone playing it, and I was like, I definitely played that game. And you basically walk around a house, don't you, as John Goodman's character, shooting spiders.
No, I have never played this before. Although this still image from the game looks absolutely terrifying.
So yeah,
this in.
That's the image of I don't know, in between levels or something, and it was I remember it being very scary when I was a kid. It's like the guy
horrific
in
Look
the
at
web,
that.
right? Yeah. Terrifying.
Oh my
stuff.
god! But look, these graphics are awesome. Look at that.
I know. The legacy of this movie is probably the best spider movie.
Absolutely.
I thoroughly enjoyed watching it. I will give it a solid 7.5 out of 10, I think.
I'm going 9.
Really?
I'm loving it.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a good, fun movie.
Really well made.
Yeah. And I think if you haven't seen Arachnophobia, listeners, go out and watch it because it is good fun.
Also, can people relate to wine anymore? Is that a middle-aged thing? Do kids?
I don't know. Yeah, probably.
He needs to. He'd probably have a selection of vapes downstairs in the new one. Do you know what I mean?
My vape set.
Just lots of different vape flavors.
Sorry, Fish. That was already boring.